Yeah, even taking a look at the sideboard here, and we'll get to that in just a little bit, but you guys will see that. It's going to be a rough road ahead here for Lasky. We'll see if he's able to cobble together another win so he can play tomorrow morning in the semifinals. Merriam going to start for the Cloudfin Raptor. Don't forget, after this game is over, we'll bring it back to the booth. We will do our first of many premium giveaways this weekend. 3 months of Star City Games Premium will be given away. A Temple of Plenty here for Lasky to start things off. I will have the question. Mr. Sullivan will have the rules, but we will get to that in a moment. We turn our attention here as Lasky is taking a look at the top card here from the Temple of Plenty. That top card is going to go to the bottom for the green-white player as he'll kick it back over to Merriam, who will take a draw here, and we'll see if he's able to evolve this Cloudfin Raptor on turn number 2. The answer is yes, via Judge's Familiar. A 1-2 comes in the red zone. Lasky down to 19.
And Judge's Familiar is better against Alex's build of green-white aggro than most lists. Alex, with 3 main deck copies of Call of the Conclave, he has a small populated engine going on with the Rootborn defenses and then an additional copy in his sideboard.
A second Temple of Plenty here for Lasky. He's going to take a look. He's off to a very, very slow start, though, and he cannot afford to have a slow start against this deck.
Especially on the draw, and especially given that he has such fundamental structural problems with his deck in the matchup. How good is Tidebinder Mage against his deck, for example?
The answer is very.
It's really good.
Merriam going to follow this up with a Thassa, which is another great card against Lasky's deck. So in comes the God of the Sea. Lasky going to take a draw here.
Well, Thassa is actually one of the cards that Alex is better equipped to answer because he has Selesnya's Charm in the list. He's one of the better decks equipped to fight that card. It's just every other card in Ross's deck is a huge problem.
A Forest, follow this up with a Banishing Light, which Judge's Familiar cannot take care of. So Thassa going to go away. Merriam will take a draw here. Not allowed to scry, of course. This is no longer a Thassa in play. And Nightveil Spectre is going to evolve. The Cloudfin Raptor across comes Merriam for 3.
And it's not clear to me how Alex wins the race, even from this position. He can't block flyers, nor can he kill them.
I could be wrong. I don't think I am, though.
I mean, Advent gives him some hope of racing, I suppose, but...
There's a Frostburn Weird. That's going to trigger that as well. Into the red zone we go with the Flyers. Trigger the Nightveil Spectre here. Take a look. It's a Soldier of the Pantheon. I can't cast that. And here is an Advent of the Worm, as you did mention, so a 5/5 is going to come in.
Well,
Judge's Familiar says, actually, it's not. So, forget I said anything. And that's going to do it. That is a one-sided affair. Ross Merriam does win game number 1 here over Alex Lasky.
Again, but this is just meeting expectations. That wasn't even Ross's best possible draw, really, in the matchup, and it was still just too hard for Alex to compete.
We'll bring it back to the booth here very quickly, as it is our first of numerous trivia giveaways. This guy's got the rules. I've got the question for 3 months of Star City Games Premium.
Cedric over here is going to ask you a question. You're going to tweet your answer to that question at SCG Live, hashtag SCG Premium. Of the correct responders, one will be selected at random for 3 free months of Star City Games Premium. Don't worry about answering first. It's not about that. It's just about answering correctly. And please bear in mind that this giveaway is in no way affiliated with Twitch TV and is run at the sole discretion of StarCityGames.com.
We'll take a look at Ross Merriam's Mono Blue Devotion deck list, number 1 seed coming into the elimination rounds. You'll find some 1-drops in his deck, 4 copies of Cloudfin Raptor, 4 copies of Judge's Familiar. Those are the normal ones. However, he does have a singleton 1-drop for a single blue mana. That doesn't really see a lot of play in this deck, so...
If Judge's Familiar and Cloudfin Raptor are just 2 high-quality Magic cards for you, we can go even a little bit deeper.
And if you can name that singleton that Ross does have here as a 9th 1-drop, hashtag the answer SCG Premium. Make sure you're following at SCG Live, and we will announce the winner at the conclusion of our quarterfinal round here as we head back down to the match. We'll take a look at the sideboards here, and as you're going to notice with this green-white deck that Alex is playing, he does not have much help in the sideboard either.
3 copies of Unflinching Courage, 2 Scavenging Oozes, 2 Celestial Flares, 2 Glare of Heresies, 2 Sundering Growths, a God's Willing, a Druid's Deliverance, a Rootborn Defenses, and a Banishing Light.
Mistcutter.
So Banishing Light's okay. God's Willing is okay. Druid's Deliverance is okay. Is that it?
Yeah?
Is it Celestial Flare? I mean, there's not a lot.
That can't be Flare.
Alex does not have a lot to bring in here. And to back up a second here with that trivia question, I'm not trying to hate on Ross. I'm a guy who plays Lava Spike and Chain Lightning and Lightning Bolt into Chain Lightning into Lava Spike. I'm not hating on anyone who has to play strictly Worses just to fill out their deck. I'm just saying it is noteworthy.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with you. And you know what this is, basically, is a player who did not expect to play against Mono Blue Devotion. That's
No
just
way.
straight up what this is. And I feel like that's probably how Ross got a huge advantage in this tournament, is there aren't cards that are flying around to beat Mono Blue because it hasn't done anything for like 2 months.
And in Alex's defense, that's a great metagame call for the last month. We've seen very little of Mono Blue Devotion. Unfortunately, he is running up against it here, and not just Mono Blue Devotion, but one of the most skilled players in the tournament as well.
On Merriam's side, he's got a Claustrophobia, 2 Domestication, a Dispel, 2 Dissolve, 2 Gainsay, 2 Negate, a Rapid Hybridization, a Biden of Thassa, 2 Jace Architect of Thought, and a Jace Memory Adept. I imagine I'd like Claustrophobia yet again. Again, this is, I think, the 3rd time we've seen Ross, and every time I've actually liked the Singleton Claustrophobia. Gotta like Domestication, a lot of targets here for that. Dissolve, Dispel, Gainsay, Negate. I don't really like the counter spells, really any of them, even though Negate does have a lot of targets in this matchup. Then the rapid hybridization, I think, is pretty obvious. I just like the fact that Ross is able to interact on that offensively or defensively. And that's really about it. I think Jace, the Architect of Thought, the +1/+0 is just a little too small for how big green-white creatures are. Memory Adept's a little too expensive, and then this isn't a matchup here for Biden of Thassa.
If I'm Ross, I'm not trying to get too fancy whatsoever over here. Ross just presenting his same 60 is legitimate in my mind. I think the Domestication and the Claustrophobia are big upgrades, so they're worth bringing in. But if Ross, I'm erring on the side of just presenting essentially my same deck list.
John McCarthy up a game here with mono black aggro against Braden Putney playing green-red monsters. I thought that I think that matchup actually pretty close. The fact that McCarthy was able to break serve, he's a 7 seed playing against a 2, and Putney was a little bit interesting to me.
Yeah, no copies, it appears. Oh, no, there's 2 copies of Xenagos in the list. I was going to say Xenagos is a pretty good tool. It appeared to be absent, but there's 2 on the deck list here. I think green-red has a pretty good matchup. I always felt with mono black aggro, like the Jund Monsters matchup was okay. Slightly unfavorable for me, okay for the Jund Monster player, and green-red feels like a better build for the matchup because you just have more on tap lands. You stumble a little less often with your mana.
And those black cards don't really play a huge role in the matchup.
They're okay. Dreadbore and Abrupt Decay are fine cards, but it's not. Now, the big thing that happens is you lose access to Golgari Charm, which mono black aggro cannot beat because
it's very hard.
The board is either all one-toughness creatures or enchantment creatures like Master of the Feast or Herald of Torment.
Yeah.
So Golgari Charm is lifetime undefeated against mono black aggro, in my experience.
Again, we do see Merriam up a game here against Lasky. Our other matches, Colin Stiles versus Jim Davis, a rematch of an earlier round of the tournament. Jim Davis' only loss. You've got him playing blue-white control yet again against Jund Monsters. And then Gino Bautista and Jason Ellis. I'm actually surprised it's not over, but I've just been told Bautista up a game with mono red, which is what you felt was going to happen.
Being on the play is such a big deal in the matchup, and I think even 60 cards to 60 cards, the mono red deck has a better deck for the matchup.
So as we do get more updates, we'll certainly let you guys know. And don't forget, we will announce the winner of our 3-month premium giveaway at the conclusion of our quarterfinal round. This will be the match that we watch right now, and then a backup match between McCarthy and Braden Putney will be the backup. If we do have time to jump over there, we will. And again, McCarthy up a game with mono black.
We could have a mono black aggro mirror match in the semis.
Yeah.
Which would be a first, certainly,
yes,
for this metagame.
Yes, it would be. This is a very unorthodox top 8. This is unlike anything we have seen in some time since Journey into Nyx has come into the format, and it is timely, depending on who you ask, and it is untimely for others, because as people are doing their invitational prep for next weekend of the Season 2 Invitational in Columbus, this turns the format presumably on its head.
Yeah. Mono black aggro, I played the deck some amount online. I was not super thrilled with the results, but I will say there's a lot of decks that struggle to beat a Curve of Creatures and Mogus's Marauder.
Yep.
That's a draw that beats a lot of people.
Marauder is actually the card that drew me to the deck, because I was trying to figure out what 3-drops to play when I was streaming the deck. I was trying Master of the Feast in the main deck, because that's the the big splashy one, so either that card's good or it's not. And I wanted to figure that out right away. Herald of Torment, I think, is obviously good just due to flexibility, and its power level is very high.
Yeah.
You try some other cards, Lifebane Zombie, the main deck, is it appropriate? Some weeks it is, some weeks it isn't. Mogus Marauder was the one that just surprised me the most, as just being a really, really, really good card in the deck.
Most of the decks that have good game plans to beat aggressive decks involve blocking. And Mogus's Marauder is very good against that, whether it's Sylvan Carry, take Corsair Crewfix, whether it's Elspeth plus it. I mean, these are the plans that decks use to stabilize the ground against decks full of 2/2, and Mogus's Marauder is very good against all those sequences.
Some of the 2-drops, you can argue which ones are good, which ones aren't. The one that I found was pretty poor, actually, was Painseer. I tried the main deck and the sideboard. It just doesn't look like that card can compete in the standard format.
It was tough. I played with Painseer, mixed results. It's really good with Mogus's Marauder. Again,
yeah, that part's great.
That sequence is really powerful, and it's good in the post-board games where you have a lot of one-mana discard. You can sometimes set it up, but I agree. It was an underperformer, certainly, and drawing multiples was very bad.
It's unfortunate, too, because that's a card that I really wanted to work in the deck.
It had moments.
Yeah.
I had moments of it being good, but overall, I believe it underperformed.
Dark Confidant, you are not.
No. But it doesn't need to be Dark Confidant to be a tournament-level card.
I agree, of course.
War Leader's Helix is not Lightning Helix, but there's a big gap between Lightning Helix and a card you can't play in Constructed.
It looks like both players are going to go down to 6 cards here. Neither player happy with the opening 7. So, you know, it's interesting. I think the builds of Mono Black Aggro, again, you've got Ellis and McCarthy playing the deck. They're relatively similar builds, but I just like that there are so many options for the deck, and it's hard to say which are the best ones. You know, you saw Josh Ravitz and Owen Turtwell, give that deck a spin many moons ago. So some success just playing online, stuff like that. Maybe playing in a couple live tournaments, but nothing crazy, nothing that broke out and put the deck really on the map. When you've got so many options at the 2 and the 3, I mean, the 2-drop, for example, you've got Thrill Kill Assassin, you've got Pain Seer, you've got Spiteful Returned, you've got Pack Rat. You know, which is the best? What's the right combination of cards that should fit there? It's really hard to say.
What I liked about the deck is that you had a lot of good bestow creatures that were fine to cast on curve and also give you hedges against flooding. I like playing beatdown decks that have some sort of out if they draw too many lands, whether it's Figure Destiny, Firebolts, Mutavault fits into this camp as well. And Herald of Torment and Spiteful Returned are both just fine to cast on turn 2 or turn 3 as appropriate. And if the game drags out a little bit, they are great. You know, they just give you a little bit of extra juice and staying power.
That was really the only reason I like playing Kithkin.
Yeah.
Is that if the game went long, you could still win because you had things to do with your mana. I mean, the Kithkin deck I played for so long had 25 lands in it, and it was an aggressive deck. So you had things to do with your mana. And you also, the one thing that that deck could do as well is that, you know, the single cards could provide an army. Cloud Boat Ranger, Spectral Procession, stuff like that. And Figure of Destiny was just an incredible Magic card.
You can win the fast games, and you can still win some of the long games.
Yeah.
Mono Black Aggro has a little bit of that. It's not that well equipped to win the longer game, but you do have a little bit of extra staying power.
That's why I was so interested when, you know, the new cards came out. You know, you had Scarhide, another card as well that you could bestow or play on turn 1. Mm-hmm. And you could actually use it on their creature, too.
Right.
A lot of versatility there. You see Judge's Familiar going to start things off here for Merriam with an Island Lasky. Let's see if he can do a little bit better than the first game. He didn't do very much, just cast a Banish Light before conceding, a couple Scribes with Temple of Plenty as well. Merriam draws a copy of Domestication. He's going to come in here for 1, and it's funny because he can make this attack with impunity because he knows there's no Skylasher looming.
Yep.
He has access to the deck list, and there are none of those for Alex Lasky. And I cast a Selesnya Charm. And Merriam says, I'm going to counter that. I don't have any interest in you having a... And Merriam does not have a second land.
Okay. I was going to say, it seems a little early to be using the counterspell there, but if he has no land drop, then that makes a lot of sense.
He's going to play Cloudfront Raptor, just has to pass the turn back over to Lasky. Lasky on the end of turn going to cast a Boon Satyr. And as hopeless as this looked for Lasky in the first game, due to Merriam's mana troubles, we might be heading to a third game very quickly.
Well, if Ross can't cast anything, it doesn't really matter what the spells are in his deck.
That's certainly true.
Alex always has that hope.
Yeah. There's a Plains. That's 4 mana. Evan of the Worm is currently online. We'll see if Lasky actually has one in his hand.
And the thing is, Ross's hand is very expensive. It does not appear that one land suddenly unlocks a Sea of Tidebinder Mages and Frostburn Weirds. There's Domestications, Master of the Waves.
Here's an Unflinching Courage. Well, we are moving in.
Okay.
And it's hard to argue with this. In for 6 we go. Merriam's going to go down to 14. Lasky going to go up to 26.
Pretty risky card to sideboard in against the Rapid Hybridization Cyclonic Rift Tidebinder Mage deck. But
well, when the matchup's that bad, you have to take some risks.
Yeah, I don't mind throwing out a long ball.
Yeah. Take a draw, Will Lasky. In for 6 more we go. Does Merriam have a Rapid Hybridization? The answer is no. So Merriam goes down to 8. Lasky up to 32. He's just going to pass the turn back. There's an island for Ross. Does he have a Tidebinder Mage? The answer is yes. That's another reason. That's a little risky to board that in. Here comes Merriam in the air for 1. Does Lasky have Advent of the Worm? The answer is no. But a Banishing Light looks to be pretty good. That'll take care of Tidebinder Mage. That'll unlock that Boon Satyr.
Yeah, it's still pretty good here for Alex, but now there's some risk. I mean, Ross is starting to draw some lands here and unlock some of his tools.
Looks like Merriam with another Tidebinder Mage going to lock down that Boon Satyr. Going to evolve the Cloudfront Raptor, and we're coming across for 2 in the air. Got to work down that high life total. Going to put him down to 29.
And keep in mind, again, with Alex's list here, if Master of Waves comes into play, that's just it. I mean, there's Banishing Lights that can fight over it, but otherwise, it and all the tokens are just sticking.
Lasky plays another land. You see there's a Sundering Growth in his hand. What's this going to be? This is another copy of Banishing Light. Says get that Tidebinder Mage out of here. Merriam going to untap. He's going to take a draw. Able to find another land. You see he's got the Hall of Triumph in his hand. Underblade card from Journey into Nyx. 2 copies making its way into Mono Blue Devotion this weekend. Also looking at a Thassa here as well. And it's time to go in the tank.
Well, even if he does play it, his Cloudfin Raptor is still not large enough to trade with a Boon Satyr. Because it's 3 power against the Boon Satyr's 4 toughness. So if Ross ends up playing it this turn, I suspect it's basically because he has literally nothing else productive to do.
Some very loud clapping on the other side of the hall. Makes you wonder what happened over there.
I don't know if it's from us.
Well, maybe that's what it is. John McCarthy wins this match 2-0 over Braden Putney. We did not expect that.
I did not.
Mono Black aggro moving on with the opportunity to face Mono Black on the other side.
Now, with that said, the green and red build of monsters, it doesn't have as much spot removal, and so it is much more susceptible to Mogus's Marauder.
This is true. You have to imagine Herald of Torment, too.
Yes,
Just
Herald
bestowing.
Torment, yeah, Herald Torment's a problem card as well.
There's Hall of Triumph. Makes that Cloudfin Raptor into a 3-4. Lasky going to look at the hand really quickly here. Merriam says, let's get in the red zone, shall we? I think Ross's big plan here is hope he draws a land so he can cast Master of Waves.
Yeah, but I believe the last card in Alex's hand, or one of the last cards in Alex's hand, is Boon Satyr, so.
Might make it all or not. I think the thing that Lasky, we know he has a Sundering Growth in his hand right now, too. I think he's wondering, should I cast this on this Hall of Triumph or should I just let this live? Looks like he's just going to let it live. Doesn't want to let Ross know that he has that in his hand. So Lasky will take a draw here. And if he does have a Boon Satyr, a little bestow of that, and that is lights out.
Another Unflinching Courage also gets the job done here.
So there's just an attack for 6. Maybe he doesn't have that card.
Excuse me.
I thought I saw it as well, but we'll see what happens here. Foul play is going to be an Experiment 1. Just pass the turn back. Over to Merriam, who will untap and take a draw. Can he find a 4th land? The answer is no. Did he find a Rapid Hybridization? The answer is yes.
That does some work here for sure.
Yes, it does. Cloudfin Raptor. Going to come into play. It's a 1-2 right now. Merriam trying to wiggle his way out of this situation. All you can do is pass the turn back, be prepared to play some defense. There's a Rapid Hybridization right now.
Doing it in the upkeep again out of respect for the God's willing that is in Alex's sideboard.
Makes sense. Now Merriam's got a long way to go to get back into this game. You see Evolution on Experiment 1 is going to take place as the Frog Lizard will come into play. Lasky going to take a draw here.
And this Sundering Growth might end up being just brutal here because Ross might block it away, assuming that there's no way that there's a disenchant in Alex's hand.
This is a Banishing Light. Oh, it might be. The hand here for Lasky is Banishing Light, Celestial Flare, and that Sundering Growth. He's a little more sure of himself now. He says, let me cast a Banishing Light. Give me that Cloudfin Raptor. And now Experiment 1 will come into the red zone here in just a moment. And Merriam has to block, of course, because that's a lethal attack. Now I just pass the turn back over to Ross, who's going to take a draw. It's a Nightveil Spectre.
And one creature is not going to get it done here.
Not on this board. He'll pick up those 4 permanents. And we're going to head to game number 3 here between Ross Merriam and Alex Lasky. Mono Blue Devotion versus Green-White.
And that's the type of draw that Alex needs. And I don't mean necessarily Alex's draw, but Ross's draw.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah,
I would agree. He needs him to stumble and fumble.
Yeah.
That's all I can really hope for.
And Alex has done some risky sideboarding here. I mean, Unflinching Courage in this matchup is, I mean, it was not bad that game, but it comes with some enormous risks.
Both players are going to take a look at the sideboards here again really quickly. I don't expect much to change for either player. You do see Merriam going back through his deck really quickly here, deciding if he wants to shift anything around here. Looks like he's going to pull a couple of cards out. There you do see the sideboards available for the players on the screen. Nothing too crazy going on here. And again, I don't expect a lot to change on either side of things. You saw Lasky bring in, I presume, an additional copy of Vanishing Light along with those 3 Unflinching Courages. We saw Celestial Flare in his hand. We didn't see God Willing in his hand, but I imagine that it's in his deck, and then we saw at least 1 Sundering Growth come in his deck as well.
Yeah. So a lot of sideboarding that got done here.
You know, Merriam brought in that domestication, at least 1, likely 2, a lot of targets there. You got to imagine the claustrophobia probably came in, even though he does know that Lasky does have a lot of ways to take care of that. Rapid Hybridization, a great card in this matchup for Ross.
So flexible, and especially now that you've seen him Flinching Courage as well. That's just another awesome piece.
So game 3 will be underway here in just a bit. Again, we do know that John McCarthy is moving on. Mono Black Aggro is going to play the winner of Gino Bautista playing Mono Red Aggro or Jason Ellis playing Mono Black Aggro. Either way, we're going to have 1 hyper-aggressive deck in the finals of this tournament.
Yeah. And we have 2 fairly aggressive decks over on this side of the bracket as well.
They certainly do. Mono Blue Devotion versus Green White Aggro is in front of you. What you don't see is Colin Stiles playing Jund Monsters against Jim Davis playing Blue White Control. Again, that's a rematch from much earlier in the tournament. Jim Davis starting 6-0. That was his first loss. He lost to Stiles in a very entertaining 3-game set. Didn't lose again. That's why he's in the top 8, and he's looking to redeem himself with his Blue-White Control deck that does not have any copies of Detention Sphere or Banishing Light, but does have 3 copies of Planar Cleansing.
The next step in Blue-White Control, there it is.
The evolution is a mystery. So shortly, we'll be underway here for these 2 players. Looks like they're happy with their configurations. They'll shuffle up and they'll deal. Don't forget, Season 2 Invitational next weekend in Columbus. I'm excited. I hope you are too. Browers is the big one. Excuse me, Barley's.
Okay.
The Irish pub across the street with the unbelievable pierogies. Wow.
Oh, I remember those. That was really good. That was really good.
There's that. There's the North Market. I'm a foodie. Who are we kidding? There's the North Market. There's some nice breweries downtown as well. So it should be fun. We got Gino wins the match 2-1. Mono Red takes down Mono Black. You've got Mono Red versus Mono Black yet again on tomorrow morning. I wouldn't be surprised if we start there, since it'll probably be a really fast match.
It has to be faster than what's going on in the semifinals.
Yeah. I have to imagine that'll be a fast match.
What's the fastest matchup at the other side of the bracket contender rate? It's Green White Aggro against Jund, I guess.
I would say, yeah.
And that's not exactly a slow game.
No, not at all. Mono Red, Mono Black. 2 Mono Black decks making the top 8. You got to imagine that's kind of an impact on the Season 2 Invitational.
For sure. No, I mean, when you see these kind of aggressive decks go in the last minute, even if you're already set on the deck you want to play, the archetype, it does affect, do I find a room for a Drown in Sorrow in my Mono Black sideboard or another Pharika's Cure or what have you? Do I find a room for Boros Reckoner in my list somewhere? It does influence those kind of decisions.
Both players going to lay out the grip. Merriam will be on the play here after some mana troubles in game number 2. See if he can find a hand like game number 1 where he was very dominant. And the answer right now is no, and Lasky will say the exact same thing, so both players are going to send him back.
And I will say, right now, if you are Ross, this is incredibly stressful. You won game 1 in overwhelming fashion. Game 2, you kind of didn't get to cast anything, and now you're taking a mulligan. Now Alex is taking a mulligan as well, but when Ross saw the bracket, he could not have been happier for the matchup he drew in the quarterfinals, and now things are getting very stressful.
We'll let these players finish shuffling up here, looking at their hands. We'll take a look at our quarter 4 schedule for next year. We announced this a little while back, but some people may have missed the announcement here. We do see we start with Grand Prix Orlando, October 3rd to the 5th. You, me, and Matthias Hunt calling a limited Grand Prix. Should be fun.
My first limited Grand Prix. So
mine too.
Got some homework to do.
Yeah.
Certainly.
We'll head to Worcester after that. You, me, and you, we've been to Worcester before.
I've never been to Worcester.
No.
I've never been to Worcester.
Really, Worcester's awesome.
Okay.
And it's not because I top-8 at Grand Prix there. It's actually just awesome. They have Dunkin' Donuts, like, right across the street from the convention center.
Easy sell.
That's not it either. Open Series in Minneapolis. We'll head that way. Myself and I believe that's you filling in for Chapin that weekend?
Correct.
Okay. I've been in Minneapolis for a couple of years, so that should be fun. We'll head to Oakland. We got to find that place with the French toast and the fried chicken again.
Yeah, we had to run that back.
Because that was unbelievable. Then we'll go to Columbus again. That'll be our 3rd time this year. That'll be sweet. Then we'll go to Jersey. We got the Grand Prix there, Legacy Grand Prix. Me, you, and Matthias should again. I know you're looking forward to that.
Of course.
Goes without saying.
Going home to Jersey is always good.
Richmond, Matthias and Chapin will take care of that one. Then we'll take care of the Open Series in Atlanta. Me and you down in the dirty South, and we'll follow it up with 3 more dates. We'll go to Portland, we'll go to Seattle, and we will do our Players' Championship in Roanoke. It's going to be a fun end to the year, and trust me, it'll be here way sooner than we think.
It sounds on me now that there's only one weekend off that I had in that stretch.
I think I only have 1 or 2, so buckle up.
Okay.
Look, man, we're getting miles.
It's true.
We are getting miles. Being told Jim Davis does win game number 1 over Colin Stiles. So blue-white control up a game. We saw that last time with Jim, though. He won game 1, then lost game 2 and game 3. Merriam going to tap 2. Frostburn Weird going to join the party here. Both players did mulligan his 6 this game, of course. Lasky, he'll take a draw. See a Selesnya Charm hiding out over there. Does have a Forest as well. Looks like he might have a copy of Unflinching Courage, too. So
pretty good curve, it looks like.
Yeah, for a mulligan, he looks like he's doing just fine. He's going to play a Forest. Just pass the turn back over to Merriam, who will take a draw here. Looks like Ross did pick up an island. He's going to start by attacking for 1. Lasky says, that's fine. I'll take 1 down to 19. Let's see what 3-drop Merriam has to play. We assume he has one. The answer is no, actually. It's just a Cloudfin Raptor followed up with a Frostburn Weird. Looks like he's going to try to evolve the Raptor. That will occur. He does pass the turn back. The big question here for Ross is, does he have one of his Haymakers, Master of Waves or Thassa?
Yeah, either one's going to be good here. It looks like he does have Master of Waves. And even if Alex does have an answer here, just the tempo of the game is so much better for Ross than it was before.
We got a 2-2 Knight coming into play with Vigilance from Selesnya Charm. So let's see what Lasky wants to do here.
Can't really attack, and it seems so rough to use a Banishing Light on this Frostburn Weird here.
And there's an Unflinching Courage. Now 4-4 Vigilance. Coming in, Trample as well. Most importantly, Lifelink. Merriam's going to take 4. He's down to 16. Lasky going to gain 4. He's up to 23.
And this is, unless Alex has some sort of follow-up here, I don't think he's going to get a ton of value here because these Frostburn Weirds on defense can become 4 power. So Alex needs some other follow-up here to get any sort of long-term value.
Merriam with Claustrophobia. Ugh. Gonna pump up the Frostburn Weird and into the red zone we go. So an attack for 2, 3, and 4. That Claustrophobia is a backbreaker for many reasons. 1, it shuts down that creature, but 2, it provides devotion for the master.
Yeah.
Yikes.
That's a rough turn. And if Alex has only Banishing Light in his hand, he may just cast it this turn on something and open up the door for Master Waves.
Not only that, the Banishing Light is his entire turn.
Yeah.
If he's just like, okay, Banish Light the Claustrophobia, sure. If I'm Ross, I don't mind. That thing doesn't untap right away. Boy, was that Claustrophobia good. My goodness.
Oh, yeah.
There's a Temple. Take a look at the top card. That one's going to the bottom. A little bit of mana being tapped here. There's a Soldier of the Pantheon. Not bad, all things considered. Be able to shut down those Frostburn Weirds.
Good attacker and a good blocker.
Merriam will take a draw.
Wow.
Jim Davis is why you are wowing. 2 games to 0. He moves on tomorrow morning to play the winner of this match.
That was fast.
When we picked this match, we did not expect it to be the longest one.
Nope.
Not at all. We expected to be able to do this and go to a backup. Turns out these are the last 2 guys playing in the room for today. Master Wave's going to come on in. Devotion count, it's pretty high. 2, 4, 6, 7, and 8 is the answer. You count the Claustrophobia on the other side of the table. That, of course, counts for Ross. And now for Alex, it is Banish Light or Bust.
Yep.
So I recommend him having one right now.
Looks like his hand is Celestial Flare.
Not you.
Which is entertaining in this board state.
Yes, it is.
A Boon Satyr, a fine magic card, but again, a little bit outclassed by what's going on Ross's side of the table.
Just a touch. See, what's funny is, I think what's happened here is that since Mono Blue hasn't been played very much, people forget that if you don't kill Master of Waves like the turn it comes into play, you lose the game.
You lose the game.
You lose the game. That's what happens. And that is what is about to be happening.
Yep.
Merriam going to untap all those permanents. He'll take a draw here.
It is Battle of Wits. If you untap,
yeah, you win the game.
You win the game.
Take a look. He's got 16 power, just in elemental tokens over there. Frostburn Weirds can pump up the jam, and of course, Cloudfin Raptor is going to be coming in for 2 in the air. Merriam just trying to figure out, all right, what kind of nonsense can I lose to right now?
Yeah, he has to think about Celestial Flare, Boon Satyr, a couple instant speeds, Advent of the Worm. There's some cards that Alex can play to impact combat, but It is not a long-term solution to the problems that Ross is presenting to the table right now. Ross just trying to be careful. But it's hard to imagine anything going too badly for him here.
Especially when you got to see the 75.
Yeah.
Looks like he's asking for a ruling on something really quickly, so. Looks like he's happy with what he sees from the stable spotter. Now he's gonna play Frostburn Weird to evolve a Cloudfin Raptor. Lasky will remember to gain a life with the Soldier of the Pantheon. Raptor's gonna move up to a 3-power flyer. There's an island, be able to pump the weirds that are in play. So Merriam with no cards in his hand. And now it's time to attack with everybody but the Master of Waves.
Pretty straightforward attack here. Doesn't want to risk losing the Master of Waves in combat to anything.
Merriam essentially saying, do your worst or have a Druid's Deliverance. Pretty much is what this is. And Druid's Deliverance just buys a moment, as here is a Celestial Flare. Merriam says, all right, I will sacrifice a token. What's this going to be? A Boon Satyr. That's perfectly fine, too. Put those in front of the 2 biggest creatures. We can say those are the weirds. Gonna pump here. That's 400. Ross Merriam was gonna win this match over Alex Lasky 2-1. It got a little shaky there due to mulligans and losing game number 2, but I think the result that most expected is the one that does occur. Mono Blue Devotion moving on over Green White Aggro.
And Ross can breathe a sigh of relief. Now the rest of the elimination rounds are gonna get a lot more challenging for him, especially his matchup with Jim Davis that looms tomorrow morning. But Ross did not have the heartbreak of losing to among his better matchups in the room.
So we will bring him back to the booth here as we got some trivia to get